When the final whistle sounded, Lamine Yamal ran toward his teammates as a world champion. A few meters away, Lionel Messi stood almost motionless. At 39, the Argentine had come within one goal of completing an ending so perfect that it would have felt scripted. At 19, Yamal had reached football's highest summit before his adult life had truly begun. Spain had beaten Argentina 1-0 after extra time. Ferran Torres scored the decisive goal in the 106th minute, ending Argentina's attempt to retain the World Cup and giving Spain the trophy for only the second time in their history. But beneath the scoreline was a story much larger than one match. It was a meeting between two generations. The player who had defined football for nearly 2 decades, and the teenager now being asked to define what comes next. Yet this story did not begin in a stadium. It began 19 years earlier, when Messi held a 5-month-old Yamal during a charity photo shoot. One was a gifted teenager still building his career. The other was a baby who could not possibly understand whose arms were around him. Years later, they met again, with the World Cup between them. This is not merely the story of Messi against Yamal. It is the story of a legend approaching the end, a young man carrying impossible expectations, and the night football finally turned the page. This is Football Power Files. The photograph now appears almost supernatural. Lionel Messi, his hands covered in soap, carefully bathing baby Lamine Yamal in a small plastic tub. It was taken by photographer Joan Montfort in 2007 for a charity calendar organized by the newspaper Sport and UNICEF. Yamal's mother had entered a raffle for local families, and pure chance paired her son with a young Barcelona player. Nobody present believed they were witnessing football history. Messi had not yet won a Ballon d'Or. He had not carried Barcelona through its most successful era, and he had not experienced the years of international heartbreak that would eventually make his World Cup triumph so meaningful. Yamal was simply a child from Mataró, whose future had not yet been written. The photograph was largely forgotten until Yamal's father shared it during Euro 2024. By then, the baby in Messi's arms had become one of the most exciting players in world football. Suddenly, millions looked at an ordinary charity photograph and saw destiny. But greatness is not transferred through touch. Messi did not magically pass his talent to Yamal that afternoon. The photograph matters because it captures both of them before the pressure, trophies, and expectations arrived. It shows two human beings before the world transformed them into symbols. One was about to dominate an era. The other was waiting to begin one. Football has spent years searching for the next Lionel Messi. The label has been attached to gifted teenagers across continents, usually before they have had enough time to understand themselves. At first, the comparison sounds like praise. Eventually, it becomes a burden. A young player is no longer judged against people his own age. He is judged against one of the greatest careers the sport has ever witnessed. Yamal could not avoid that comparison. He developed at Barcelona's academy, emerged as a left-footed attacker, and began creating danger from the right side of the pitch. He played with imagination, balance, and the confidence to challenge experienced defenders before he was old enough to drive in many countries. Then Barcelona handed him the number 10 shirt. The club officially gave Yamal the famous number in July 2025, shortly after he turned 18 and signed a contract running until 2031. It was the shirt Messi had made almost sacred at Barcelona. From that moment, every Yamal performance carried the shadow of the man who had worn it before him. But Yamal never asked to become a copy. His personality, background, and football belonged to him. The problem was that the world had already created a role for him: Messi's heir. And by the 2026 World Cup, that role was no longer a marketing fantasy. It had become the central drama of the tournament. Messi entered the 2026 World Cup with nothing left to prove, and still something enormous left to chase. 4 years earlier, he had finally lifted the trophy in Qatar, ending Argentina's 36-year wait and removing the one absence critics had used against his legacy. Many believed that should have been the ending. Messi standing beneath the lights, holding the World Cup close to his chest, surrounded by teammates who had fought for him as much as they had fought for their country. But great competitors rarely accept the ending other people select for them. At 39, Messi returned for a 6th World Cup. He no longer moved with the constant explosion of his younger years, but he had adapted. He conserved his energy, studied the match, and waited for the exact moment when his intelligence could do the most damage. Argentina's journey was difficult, but Messi repeatedly found ways to influence it. He finished the tournament with 8 goals and 4 assists. In the semi-final against England, he created both Argentine goals, including the stoppage time winner that sent the defending champions into another final. He also extended his World Cup records to 21 goals and 12 assists. One more victory would have given Argentina consecutive World Cups and offered Messi a farewell almost beyond imagination. Standing between him and that ending was Spain. And standing on Spain's right wing was the teenager wearing his old Barcelona number. The pressure on Messi and Yamal was not the same. Messi understood exactly what the final could mean. He had already lived every possible version of international football. Early promise, painful defeats, public criticism, retirement, return, and eventual redemption. He knew opportunities at this level were not guaranteed. At 39, he also knew this might be the final World Cup match of his life. Yamal carried a different weight. He had turned 19 only 6 days before the final. He had already won major trophies and broken age records, but experience could not protect him from the scale of the occasion. He was not simply playing for Spain. He was playing inside a story the football world had written around him. Every time he received the ball, people saw Messi's successor. Every successful dribble encouraged the comparison. Every mistake invited the suggestion that the hype had arrived too soon. Before the final, Yamal had completed 30 dribbles, more than any other player at the tournament. He had become one of Spain's primary sources of width and unpredictability, receiving the ball near the touchline before forcing defenders into uncomfortable one-on-one situations. Messi entered the match carrying the accumulated weight of an entire career. Yamal entered it carrying the uncertainty of everything his career might become. One was trying to protect his final chapter. The other was writing his first. The similarities between them are obvious. Both are left-footed. Both developed at Barcelona. Both can begin on the right before moving toward the center, where their vision and close control become more dangerous. But describing Yamal as a younger Messi ignores what makes each player unique. At his peak, Messi did not merely beat defenders. He controlled the entire geography of a match. He could drop into midfield, dictate possession, accelerate through the center, and finish the move himself. Defenders knew what he wanted to do, but knowing rarely helped them prevent it. Yamal creates danger differently. He often remains wider, inviting the fullback to approach him. He slows down, changes rhythm, and waits for the defender's body weight to shift. Then he either attacks the open space or uses the attention he has attracted to release a teammate. Messi's game was built around total control. Yamal's is currently built around disruption. That distinction matters because Yamal does not need to become Messi to become great. Trying to recreate Messi's career would be an impossible and potentially destructive task. His challenge is to develop his own form of dominance without allowing the comparison to consume his identity. Messi reached the final as a player who understood almost everything a football match could demand. Yamal arrived with something different: the fearlessness of a young man who had not yet learned to believe anything was impossible. The world expected magic. The match delivered tension. Spain controlled possession and repeatedly pushed Argentina toward their own penalty area. Argentina defended with discipline and emotional intensity, hoping Messi could produce one more decisive moment. But Spain compressed the center of the pitch, restricted his passing options, and forced him to receive the ball farther away from goal. For 90 minutes, Argentina failed to register a shot. Messi searched for space, drifted across the attacking line, and tried to connect with Julian Alvarez, but Spain denied him the central openings he had used throughout the tournament. Yamal did not dominate the final through goals or assists. His importance was more subtle. Every time he received the ball on the right, Argentina had to shift across. A second defender often moved closer. That attention stretched the defensive structure and created space elsewhere. The match remained goalless into extra time. Then, Enzo Fernandez was dismissed, reducing Argentina to 10 men. Spain increased the pressure, but Emiliano Martinez repeatedly kept his country alive. In the 106th minute, the breakthrough finally arrived. Nico Williams helped create the opening, and substitute Ferran Torres attacked the moment with conviction. His finish beat Martinez and sent Spain toward the trophy.
Yamal had not scored the goal that defeated Messi. He had not personally taken the World Cup from him. Football is more complicated than a poster showing two famous faces. But Yamal was part of the Spanish generation that closed the door on Messi's final attempt at history. The legend had one last match to control. For once, the match refused to obey him. At the final whistle, the stadium divided into two emotional worlds. Spain's players ran toward one another. Some screamed. Some collapsed. Others looked into the stands, searching for the families who had carried them through years of sacrifice. Yamal became a world champion at 19 years and 6 days, making him the joint fourth youngest player ever to lift the trophy across the pitch. Messi stood with the pain of a man who understood exactly how close he had come. The defeat could not erase 2022. It could not remove his records or diminish the joy he had already given Argentina. But human disappointment does not disappear, simply because a person has succeeded before Messi had invested his body, emotions, and final years in one more journey. He had reached the last match and fallen one goal short. Then Yamal approached him. The teenager and the legend embraced. In that moment, the famous photograph from 2007 seemed to complete its circle. Messi had once held Yamal when the child could not understand who he was. 19 years later, Yamal held Messi when the older man understood exactly what had been lost. There was no crown being passed, no magical transfer of greatness. There were simply two footballers sharing a human moment at opposite ends of the same dream.
Calling Yamal Messi's heir makes for a powerful headline. It may also be one of the greatest dangers facing his career. A shirt number can be inherited. A position can be occupied by someone new. A club can build its next generation around another gifted player. But Messi's legacy cannot be transferred. His achievements, failures, and memories belong to him. Yamal must now survive success as carefully as other players survive failure. Winning the World Cup at 19 does not guarantee 15 years of dominance. Talent cannot prevent injuries, poor decisions, or exhaustion. Public admiration can change quickly, especially when a teenager is expected to perform like a legend every week. Messi's greatness was not established simply because he was brilliant at 19. It was established because he remained extraordinary for almost 2 decades. He adapted as his body changed, recovered from devastating defeats, and continued performing while millions treated every match as another referendum on his place in history. That is the real challenge facing Yamal. He does not need to reproduce Messi's numbers immediately. He needs the freedom to grow, struggle, and discover what kind of player and person he wants to become. The World Cup did not prove that Yamal had replaced Messi. It proved that Yamal's own story had begun.
19 years separated the plastic bathtub from the World Cup final. In the first image, Lionel Messi looked down at a baby who knew nothing about football history. In the final image, they stood together after helping decide it. Messi left as a defeated finalist, but also as a World Cup champion, the scorer of 21 goals in the competition, and a legend whose place in football could not be damaged by one final loss. Yamal left carrying the trophy Messi had wanted one last time. The teenager did not erase the man who came before him. He did not replace him. He simply met him at the border between an ending and a beginning. Once, Lionel Messi held Lamine Yamal in his arms. 19 years later, Yamal stood between Messi and history, and football turned the page. This is Football Power Files.